Hello everybody, my name is Maria and I'm here with another episode of Body Soul. No, that's not Body Soul. Self-talk Body Soul. I've decided to try it with a video because I am still posting these on YouTube and I thought it's just a little bit more interactive if I'm actually here in front of the camera and the video is not just of a picture of me. And I really hope you can't see the microphone in my hand, because that's kind of awkward. The reason I'm holding it is because I bought a really crappy tripod that is not suitable for this microphone, because it's like a big one actually. And also another annoying thing is that I don't have the adapter to connect it to my camera, which is going to be very frustrating editing this whole thing, because I'm going to have to synchronize the video to the sound of the microphone that I'm now recording through the laptop. Anyhow, back to the topic. This technique that I want to talk about, that I've used to combat all these mental health problems and life problems, it is universal and it is so straightforward, and it sounds way too simple to actually work. But that's the secret to most things in life, that they're always out there in the open and they're very simple, and we just tend to overcomplicate things a lot more than they have to be. If you are subscribed to my Instagram Instagram account with the same name, Self-Talk Body Soul, you will have seen that I have posted about this episode a couple of days ago, and I gave a little hint as to what this topic is going to relate to. And I said, the secret lies in a simple word: why. When we're little children, we constantly ask why. We don't know anything about this world, and so we go about our days asking, why is this like this? Why is that like that? And our parents at some point get very tired of answering these questions. And frankly, at some point, they don't even know the answer themselves. So the answer we get is, just because it is. Or stop asking questions, or I don't know even, So the answers we get are not complete or truthful, or they're not there at all. And more so to the point, we get anxious and scared to keep asking these questions, because if we're constantly being refused an answer or told stop asking questions, we don't really want to keep asking them. And we just take just because it is as an answer, and we ingrain it into our brains that things in this life sometimes, or most of the time, or all the time, happen for no reason. They just happen. And with the allowing ourselves to ask more and more questions, we also stop asking them in our heads. And that is the dangerous part, that even when we grow into adulthood, we keep believing this idea that things are not systematic, that there is no theme going on, and there is no cause and effect, no patterning in this life. There is no answers for some things. And that is the biggest lie you will ever believe, if you believe in that. And that is the reason why 99% of people have some kind of problems in their lives in any area. And it is because we stop asking why. So, talking about the topic of depression, anxiety specifically, and mental health, it applies here too. We believe that, sometimes there are certain events that precede these mental health issues, some kind of trauma, life events, genetics, you name it, whatever. But we just succumb to the idea that, this is normal, and, we can't do anything about it. Even more to the point, we feel like we are victims of it, and it is not under our control. I I think most of the time, people that suffer with depression, anxiety, they can't quite link it to anything specific in their life, and they just believe that it just happens to them. They just feel anxious. It's just the way they are. And that is a very dangerous thought to have, because that strips you off the ability to do anything about it. And that is the victim mode mentality, if you like. We don't do it consciously. We don't consciously choose to be victims of anything. But subconsciously, there is a reason why we choose to be that victim. And the reason why it happens like that is because our egos, or the reptilian brain, or whatever you want to call it, its role is to protect us. And at some point in our lives, something has happened after which the ego, or the reptilian brain, has decided that depression or anxiety is like a protective shell for us. And that's the problem with ego, that sometimes, or most of the time actually, even though it's striving to protect us, it's actually doing worse for us. It doesn't know what is better for us. Usually because it's scared. It is scared of the unknown. It is comfortable in whatever it knows already. Even if whatever it knows is bad, it is comfortable in it because it's aware of what it feels like. It's aware of what it is. And whenever it is faced with something it doesn't know, even if it's positive and good, it gets scared and it doesn't want to go there. Anyhow, back to the biggest point of this conversation, the question why. If you really sit down one day and ask yourself enough times why something is one way in my life and not the other, if you just keep asking away, I promise you, you will come to a point where you will get to an answer and it will just click. And 99% of time, that answer will be related to your parents. Freud was right. Most of our traumas have settled in our brains before we were 7 years old. And who are we surrounded with before we're 7 years old? Our family. Why does it matter so much? Both mom and dad, by the way, are very important, but mom is slightly more so because you're made of her flesh and blood and nutrients and everything. But both parents are important. Why? Because in our child's minds, our mom and dad are a representation of the rest of the world for us. When we're kids, they're like our gods in our children's minds because, well, first they give us life. Secondly, they are the sole sort of entities that we perceive in our child's minds that protect us, and they give us food and they give us attention, and they thereafter create an association with the rest of the world. So what I mean by that is, if your mother was nurturing and loving and kind, then your association with the rest of the women in the world will be of nurture and love and kindness. I'm not saying that you will treat every woman like that, that every woman is loving and kind, but initial imprint that you will have towards all women will be that. If on the other hand your mother seemed a little bit competitive or with you, or she was overly caring, or she was stressful, you will not have a good association with the rest of the women in the world. And the same goes for your dad. And now you can imagine what happens when one or the other parent is absent from your life altogether, right? That will bring havoc to your life a little bit, like it did to mine. I was raised without a father. He died when I was 12 days old. And so I have never, and since then, I never had a stepdad or pretty much any father figure or any male figure in my life. My nearest family only consists of women. I was raised by my mom, my gran, and my sister. The imprint that left in my mind is that men are not important. And it sounds really bad. And I didn't choose this imprint. It has just been created because all my life I saw 3 very strong women doing everything in their lives. They were working, they were raising kids, they were shopping, they were doing everything, right? And so in my mind, the image that was created was, well, I guess there is no need for a man, right? And that is really bad for future romantic relationships, as I have found out. Because whenever you try and get close to a person, in your mind, you don't deem them as important as they actually may be in your life. Anyway, I'm being very specific here with an example. You can apply it to anything, right? Any relationship dynamic that you have had with your mom or dad will leave an imprint on you, right? The reason, anyway, I got to this point in the conversation was because, as I said before, when you dig deep enough into your problems in life, you will inevitably find that something or other has stemmed from a programming that was installed in you by your parents. Not purposefully install a program in you, it's just their behaviors or actions made you feel a certain way. And as children, whatever our parents do, it will never be good enough. Unfortunately, that's the way your brain works. Or fortunately, because we learn from it. You will find that there was something that has been imprinted in your life, into your life by your parents, that your job now is to undo in order to grow in your life. And that is the process of growing up. And there is a term called separation. It means separating from your parents' pain and separating yourself from your parents' idea in your mind, right? Separation is about seeing your parents the way they just are and accepting that's the way they are, not trying to change them, not comparing them to the image that you have created of a perfect parent in your mind when you were a kid, because that is the only thing that is creating emotional instability towards your parents. It is not them the way they are. Whenever we have problems with our parents, or anyone for that matter in life, it is because we have created an image of them. And whenever they do something that does not align with that image of them, we don't accept them. Because you don't fit my standard. You don't fit the image in my head. And that is very dangerous, right? I hope everyone can see that. Going back to the point of depression, anxiety, how we can use everything I've just said basically to never be depressed again. And what I mean by depressed, I mean having major depressive episodes. We will always have times when we feel sad, or something happens that throws us off. But this, whatever I'm going to talk about now, has helped me to not go back into the deep end of depression and stay there. And I've started getting cues of like when things started going in that direction and then stopping it there at its core and going back to a place of joy and happiness in life. And this is very powerful. And again, that comes back to the point of asking question, why? So you can apply this to every single day of your life. If you wake up in the morning and you already feel depressed, sad, anxious, angry, you can ask yourself, why? Why am I feeling like this today? And your logical brain, most of the time will say, I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be like that, right? And I get that. But what I mean is, that is where you have to start learning how to go inside and listen to the very, very gentle whisper inside that will tell you all your answers. Maybe you will know what I mean when I say this. Sometimes when we try and make decisions, we have a very loud voice that tells us what to do in our heads. But somewhere on the background, you can almost, sometimes people feel it, sometimes people hear it in their minds, but there is like a soft, quiet voice in the background that you can always hear as well. The way you can differentiate between the two voices is you can ask, is this voice coming from a place of fear? Or is this voice coming from a place of calm, love, happiness, joy? If it's coming from a place of fear, then it's definitely not your intuition. Don't get me wrong, our intuition sometimes can protect us from something bad happening. And then you will hear the opposite kind of voice. So the loud voice, as you know, as I said now, the loud voice will say, we should do it because it's the right thing to do. But then you will feel somewhat unsettled. You won't feel scared, but you will feel that something is off. I feel like it's not the right thing to do. So these are some cues that you can use to differentiate and get to know your intuitive and your loud voices. Every day, if you just practice, like, whenever you make any decision, just quieten the loud bitch in your head and just be like, I've heard you, I've already heard you, I know what you're saying, let me hear the other side. And that will really change your life. And so, every day, if you wake up in the morning and you feel depressed or anxious or angry or sad or whatever, ask yourself, why am I like that? And then your loud voice will probably say, I don't know. And then you say, okay, what if I did know? What would the answer be? These are psychological tricks that genuinely work on our brains, because our brains are very stupid, to be fair. And you can literally just say things like that and it will work. So if you don't know the answer straight away, it is probably because your brain is blocking the answer because it's scared to see the answer. So to get to the answer, you ask it, if we knew the answer, what could it be? And then emotions, images, words, depending on the kind of person you are, will arise in your mind. And that is where you can start exploring. And let's say you woke up sad, and then you ask yourself, why am I sad? Because yesterday someone said something rude to me. Okay, so that's why I'm sad. But why did they say something rude to me? Because of this and this and this happened. Why did this happen? Because of blah 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 blah. And you keep going like that. And you will get to some place which will probably be very far back in the past, and you will see the pattern. Especially if certain things in your life that cause you stress, anxiety, sadness, they happen repeatedly. That is already a pattern, and there will be a deeper reason for why things like that happen. Right? We're asking constructive questions. What happened along the way of my life that has brought me to this point in time? And little by little, if you start with the smallest things, you don't need to ask yourself grand things like, why am I depressed? That's too general, too big to ask. You need to break it down step by step. For example, let me give you an example to make it a bit more sort of easier in your mind to comprehend what I mean by that. My first major depressive episode happened in my first relationship. So, you can imagine why that happened, because of what I said before about not having a male parent or any male figure in my life. When I analyzed that relationship with this abusive person, yes, he was abusive. The only reason why he was abusive is because I allowed his abuse. Was because I had no concept of saying no to people, putting myself first, and hence any person, as a matter of fact, any person can become abusive if they see that you allow them to do whatever they want. If you were to go into a shop, steal something, and nobody would do anything about it, you would think, well, I guess that's normal. I guess I can do that then. If there was no security guard and nobody would have stopped you exiting the shop with taking that item without paying for it, if nobody had stopped you, if there was no repercussion, if there was no consequence, why wouldn't you do it? You could just live for free, right? Makes sense. If nobody punishes you for the wrongdoings, punishes as in tells you off, whatever, you assume that you can do it and you will get away with it. And that is exactly what happens in abusive relationships. You don't say, I will not allow you to treat me like that. They think it's okay. And yes, it takes, morality for everyone to kind of realize, I don't want to, treat someone like that myself. That's a different matter, right? We're talking from first person perspective. What can I do in this situation to not allow it to happen? I can say, hold on a second, buddy. I don't allow this in my life, right? I didn't do it. And I have realized this point some time ago, and then the self-loathing started. And then I was thinking, I started hating myself for not being strong enough to say no in that time of my life. And that was self-destructive again. And now I realize the power of this whole thing is to keep asking why. Let's start from the beginning. The reason I got depressed was because this person entered my life. Why did he enter my life? Because I allowed him to. Why did I allow him to? Because I had no concept of setting boundaries. Why did I not have concept of setting boundaries? Because if I look far back enough, in my family, nobody had boundaries. I didn't even have my own room. I didn't have my own space, physical, mental, emotional, no space. Because we lived in a small apartment, so there were no physical boundaries. Everything was shared. I didn't have a set example of what does it mean to set healthy boundaries. We all need them. It is necessity. It is an act of self-love and the love for another person, in fact, to set healthy boundaries. Because when you don't have healthy boundaries, there is shit going on here, like resentment and hatred and negative self-talk, a lot of bad shit. And from that place, when you have this running in your mind, you can't give love to the other person. So actually, you not setting healthy boundaries for yourself is affecting the other person too. So I realized I was like that because in my family, there was no model for setting healthy boundaries. So I got to this root in my childhood of not having anyone set me an example how to set healthy boundaries. Now, instead of saying, oh, I hate my family because they were not a good example, blah, 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 victim mentality. Instead of doing that, I ask myself, what can I do about it now? Because the reality is I don't choose to live like this for the rest of my life. Not having healthy relationships. I don't choose this. And so I ask myself, what can I do about it? I can create my own example of setting healthy boundaries. And that is when the internet, friendships, books, things like that come along and they help you build your new life, right? We go inside to find the answers. We go into a past, we go into this hellhole sometimes to dig up the answers, not for blaming anyone, not for hating yourself, but to find the root cause. And then you ask yourself, what can I do about it? And then you do it, right? Until you realize what is the actual reason for any of your problems, you won't be able to solve them. How can you solve something you don't understand? And that is where I'm going to leave it at, I think. Keep asking the question why, because it will bring you to the root of every single one of your problems. And you will find some answers there. And as I said in the beginning, this doesn't apply just to people with mental health issues. This applies to anyone who wants to improve any area of their lives. If you're struggling with money right now, you need to really look at your relationship with money. What kind of thoughts you carry about money? Most people's thoughts about money are negative. That's why they don't have the money. Why will you have something that you don't like? Why will you have something that you're scared of? Why will you have something that you think is bad? Why will you have something that you think you're not worth of? Dig this shit up. Leave it behind. Create new life, guys. Peace.